There are steps you must take prior to doing a flood in order to ensure safe and efficient operation of the Olympia. First, remember that safety is your first priority. Upon approaching the Olympia room and opening the door, sniff for propane or natural gas fumes. If you smell gas, then immediately close the door. Do not turn on the light switch, because it may ignite the gas. Contact the qualified personnel to have the room properly ventilated and the source of the leak determined and rectified. If you do not smell gas, turn on the light and go directly to the propane tanks. Unclip the safety straps on the outside tank and lift it to determine how much fuel is inside. Replace and securely refasten the safety straps. Repeat the process on the inside tank. If you find there is no fuel in the tank, remove it and replace with a full tank. Now, open both tanks very slowly at first. Make sure you open the tanks all the way so you do not get any leaks around the valve stems. Check and make sure your couplings are tight and leak-free by testing with soapy water. Walk around the Olympia checking for adequate clearance on each side, above, and ahead of the unit. Check underneath the Olympia for any obstructions and remove them immediately before proceeding. Walk around to the driver's side of the Olympia and mount the machine, making sure to use the three-point mount and dismount procedure. First, raise the armrest up fully. Place the right hand on the seat, the left hand on the mounting hand grip, and one foot on the top of the conditioner, and then literally walk onto the driver's platform. Look inside the snow bin to make sure there is nothing inside that could fall out when you lift the snow bin. Check the accelerator pedal to make sure that it returns properly to the idle position. Once seated, turn the ignition key to start the engine and check for adequate oil pressure. Raise the snow bin by pushing the top half of the snow dump button on the dash. Turn off the engine and dismount the Olympia using the proper three-point procedure. When dismounting, lift the armrest, place the left hand on the mounting grip, your right hand on the seat, and step back onto the top of the conditioner and then onto the floor. Engage the safety snow bin support bar on at least one side and preferably on both sides, being careful not to let the safety bar drop onto the hydraulic cylinder shaft. You are now ready to start the circle check. Remember that safety is your first priority. Check the battery cables to make sure they are tight and the battery securely in place. Check the tire pressure, the tread for wear, and the lug nuts, making sure they are tight. Check the upper and lower control arms to make sure that they are securely tightened. Check the CV boots to make sure there is no grease leaking from them. Remember, if grease can leak out, then water can leak in and cause corrosion. Check the electrical connections and spark plugs. Check to see there is no oil leaking from the valve covers and no coolant running down the back of the engine. Check all wires and hydraulic hoses to make sure everything is in place. Check the radiator hose on both ends to make sure that it is flexible and the seals are secure and not leaking. Give the bumper wheel a spin to make sure it is turning properly. Look underneath the Olympia to see if there are any signs of leaking fluids such as oil, coolant, or water. Also, ensure that no one is working under the machine and that nothing has been left on the floor. Check the front of the hood for any nicks, scratches, or cracks. Check to make sure the two hydraulic bin cover cylinders are properly in place. Check the coolant level. If it is below the halfway mark, add Dex-Cool. Check the hydraulic fluid level. Make sure it is between 1/2 and 2/3 full. Check the CV joints on the right axle. Make sure there's no grease coming out. Check the steering linkage along with the upper and lower control arm. Check the hydraulic hoses, making sure they are tight and there are no leaks around the pump. Also, check the bottom of the tank for corrosion and leaks. Check the pump belt. Check the lower radiator hose and the other hoses connected to the cooling system, making sure they are not rubbing on anything. Check the radiator to make sure it is not damaged or leaking. Check the air filter and propane connections. Make sure the throttle moves freely. Check the spark plug wires on this side for wear and make sure they are properly attached. Similarly, check the electrical connections for wear. Check the heater hoses for the fuel system. Now, check the engine oil level. Check the transmission fluid, making sure there is fluid on the dipstick, and check for bright red color. Check the oil tank filler cap. Make sure the main access panel is tight and leak-free with the gasket properly in place. Check the tire pressure, the tread for wear and cuts, and the wheel nuts. Check the tank drain valve, making sure it is closed. Repeat the tire pressure, tread, and wheel nut check on the right rear wheel. Also, check the leaf springs. Make sure they are not damaged or loose, and check the brake lines for wear and leaks. Look around the hydraulic manifold block for any oil leaks or loose wire connections. All the adjusting nuts should be tight. Check the tire wash hoses for leaks. Check the condition of the blade in relationship to the runners. To avoid being cut by the blade, always start at the rear of the conditioner and slide your hand towards the front. Also, check the runners for burrs that would leave scratches on the ice surface. Make sure you go the full length of the runner. The runner should look like this one with no nicks or burrs on it, and the blade should be flush or slightly above the bottom of the runner. Remove the conditioner cover plate. Check that the auger runs freely in both directions. Make sure that there is no up, down, or side-to-side movement. Check the tension of the chain. There should be between 1/4 and 1/2 inch free play. Check all the quick couplers. Make sure they are connected properly. Check the blade holder pivot bolts to make sure they are tight. Replace the conditioner cover plate and install the locking pin. Come around to the back of the machine and flip up the towel. Examine the squeegee, making sure it fits tightly from end to end and there are no nicks or cuts. Examine the bottom side of the towel. Make sure that it is clean, debris-free, and the terry loops are in good shape. Check the wash water flow by turning on the wash water valve. There should be a good spray coming out each side. Turn off the wash water valve. Check the flood water by turning on the flood water valve. You should see a consistent flow of water coming out each hole along the entire length of the pipe. Turn off the flood water valve and put the towel back in place. Come around to the driver's side of the conditioner. Check the auger for up and down and side-to-side movement. Also, check the blade holder pivot bolt on this side to make sure it is tight. Check the bottom of the runner again for nicks or burrs. If your Olympia is equipped with the optional hydraulic edger on the conditioner, remove the safety shield and check the cutting tips for damage and make sure the plate is securely attached. Replace the safety shield. Check all the hydraulic hose connections on the edger and make sure there are no fluid leaks. Check the electrical connections. Check the quick couplers underneath the driver's platform. Again, check tire pressure and wheel nuts on the driver's side rear wheel. Check the master cylinder to make sure it is at the maximum level. Now check all the hydraulic hoses and connections on this side of the hydraulic manifold. Make sure that there are no leaks and that the hoses are not rubbing on anything that could cause them to become frayed. Check the leaf springs, making sure they are not damaged or loose. And check the brake lines for wear and leaks. Check the board brush. Make sure that there is no debris caught in it and that there is no free play. Return both safety support bars back up to their storage place and insert holding pins. Now, using the 3-point procedure, mount the driver's platform and complete the dash instrument panel check. Turn the key to start the Olympia. Immediately check the oil pressure. Check the voltmeter. And check the temperature gauge and the tachometer. The TAC will go through a test procedure before settling at an idle speed of approximately 800 RPM. Push the bottom of the snow dump button to lower the snow bin. Check the horn and lights. Make sure the conditioner is all the way up. Test the elevator system. First, push the top of the elevator button and then the bottom to make sure the augers are working in both directions. Leave running long enough to engage the automatic snowbreaker. While the elevator is running, check the snowbreaker's manual override by pushing the lower half of the snowbreaker override button on the dash and make sure the snowbreaker cycles. Check the board brush by pushing the lower half of the button to extend the board brush fully. Then, push the upper half and raise the board brush. Check the brake pedal. Make sure that it does not go all the way to the dash and that the brake lights come on. Make sure that the blade adjustment hand crank wheel turns freely. Make sure that the propane crossover switch is functioning properly by switching from one tank to the other and back. Check the snowbreaker. Make sure the bolts are tight. Push the tire wash button on and off. Make sure to disconnect all water hoses and natural gas fuel lines, if so equipped, before moving the Olympia. Always make sure you use the horn when approaching any area where pedestrians could be. Always use caution when operating the Olympia.